Today we are together with Mr. Jagannath Panda. He is the head of Stockholm Center for South Asian and Indo-Pacific Affairs. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being with us today. As you know, everybody is talking about the tariffs that the United States has brought to basically the entire world. From your perspective, how do you see it's going to affect the American will to create a anti-China coalition around Asia? Do you think that because of this tariffs, many countries in Asia, just like South Korea, Japan, or Philippines, they're going to be getting closer to China and being farther away from a potential conflict with China?
I think this trade war was supposed to happen. It was anticipated for a long time, given the way there has been job loss, the American economy is staggering down, and the way there has been a lot of domestic economic difficulties within the United States of America. So what Trump, after coming back to power again, is imposing tariffs, and the way he's conducting his diplomacy to put more economic pressures is bound to happen, and it was anticipated. But I think what is new about Trump's approach towards China is that he has been quite severe on China when it comes to economic dealings, as well as imposing exceptionally high level of tariffs. That kind of tariffs we don't really expect it. It was expected that US-China will continue to have difficulty and rivalry on trade and economic issues. But to impose such a high standard of tariffs, it was unimaginable. So in that context, I think the war is on, and probably Trump administration's focus on China is going to be much more severe, even though politically, diplomatically, Trump administration has shown a lot of positivity to engage with China, but economically he has just taken an opposite severe stand. So we will continue to see a war intensifying between US and China, but that also opens up a lot of opportunities for emerging economies, middle-ranked economies in Asia and beyond. And therefore, I think this Antalya Diplomacy Forum is a right platform in terms of talking about how middle powers, emerging economies could group together to talk about in building a new narrative, a narrative which is beyond US-China rivalry narrative. And therefore, I would say that a non-bipolar centric world with the lead of many of the emerging countries, with the lead of India, Turkey, and many of the other emerging economies should come into the forefront, so that we could talk about a world without America, and also to some extent a world without China. Even though China is an integral part of the emerging economic world, but we have to also negotiate hard. We need to negotiate hard with China in order to bring China to the negotiating table to become a much more transparent and responsible economic actor in Asia Pacific as well as in the Indo-Pacific region.
Okay, so there was always a talk about a potential Taiwan conflict getting into a reality. Especially many sources in the West were claiming that by 2027 we may see an actual conflict starting there. So with the Trump administration and the new tariff war coming to reality, do you believe that this may prove the conflict is closer than before?
As far as Taiwan issue is concerned, I think we will continue to see a kind of indecisive, uncertain approach from the Trump administration. He has not spoken much about Taiwan issue, even though some of his officials have spoken a little bit about Taiwan issue, but he himself as a president has not really spoken much about the Taiwan issues. And that kind of ambivalence, and I think the Trump administration is going to maintain. And I think this is where the American strategy is. They want to negotiate with the Chinese on the Taiwan issue, that America is here to probably renegotiate and give up Taiwan as an issue, subject to the Chinese actually value America as an equal economic partner and pay more tariffs. And I think this is where the tricky situation going to emerge. But I think as far as the future of Asia-Pacific economic situation are concerned, I think the situations are going to be quite critical, and it depends how Xi Jinping administration is going to react. But we know for a fact that when it comes to the Chinese diplomacy, currently China is going through a dual track approach internationally. One, to protect its core interest, national security interest, where Taiwan figures as one of the most significant issue. Second, to improve and position China as the foremost economic actor in world affairs, to lead the platform of global south, to lead the platform of emerging economies. And this is where the Chinese are not going to make any sacrifice or compromise with the United States of America. So we will see that US-China intensifying further, and probably Xi Jinping administration responding quite hard to Trump administration.
The main subject of this forum was actually multipolarity and how the countries are going to be reacting to multipolarity. So from your perspective, how do you see multipolarity coming to reality? Is it a large risk to global trade and global economy, and in the same time a beginning of many conflicts to emerge in the next few years? Or do you think that it's more of a balancing act between countries that were part of the unipolar world order like the Western countries and the global South and the rest?
I think multipolarity as a power structure is here to stay. But what we need to really understand is that we are talking about two spectrum of powers. One is multipolarism, the other one is multipolarity. When it comes to multipolarism essentially means that we are talking about the centers of powers. Whereas multipolarity means it is the distribution and execution of power. So therefore, when it comes to emerging economies like India, China, Turkey, and many other BRICS associated countries, they are going to be a part of both multipolarism as well as multipolarity. So you will see a further fragmentation, new power distribution, new formation of power blocks coming up in the process. As you could already see, within the global South formulations, there is a huge competition is happening between China and India. China wants to take a lead in the global South formulations, trying to make a point that they are the singular most largest economy in the global South formulation, and therefore it makes sense for them to have the unilateral leadership in the global South formulations. But when it comes to India, India holds the view that global South is a platform which should have a much more, a multipolar centric power distribution, multipolarity oriented power distribution, where every emerging economies will have their own voice to express. And this is where India is trying to promote within the global South formulation, that here we should be talking about shared leadership rather than unilateral leadership. And this is where I think China and India differ from the global South formulations. And therefore, I think this is a platform where Turkey can play a significant role, because Turkey wants a much more cordial, equicordial platform to express itself in global platform. And therefore, we need a forums like Global South or multipolarity-oriented power-centric blocks, new power-centric blocks in the Asia-Pacific regions, where there will be shared leaderships. So therefore, among emerging economies, there is going to be a power struggle, but this power struggle is the new normal, and we have to live with it.
Okay, one last question. So the European countries have been not in the same page as Donald Trump when it comes to getting into a more comfortable side when it comes to multipolarity. European countries were pursuing a more old school approach to many things so far. Do you think that these countries in the Europe are going to pursue a more in the same page attitude with China, with Russia, or with the global South in the next decade or so?
I think I would agree with you that Europe does not really endorse the kind of multipolar platform the world is trying to live. But I think it is here also we need to understand that Europe is completely blind about its own platform. If we talk about EU as a platform, EU is a combination of 27 or 28 member countries. But within that formulations, they have a consensus building approach. before they built consensus, there are many voices within the EU platform. So I think if a case of multipolarity and multipolarism is anywhere vividly really replicated or visible, that is in the European platform. So Europe has been blind to endorse about any multipolar-centric world because they still feel that a dominant US-centric unipolar or West-centric unipolar order. So in that context, Europe or EU has been quite blind to the debate about multipolarism and multipolarity. But we must understand that if multipolarism as a power center or as a platform of power center and multipolarity as a distribution of power centers, if anywhere it is replicated quite clearly, that is in the European platform, in the EU platform. And therefore Europe should revisit their future approach. They should have a much more open approach to future negotiations, future security debates, and therefore I think it makes sense for EU and European member states to talk more about multipolarism because they are going to strongly be connected in times to come with economies from Asia-Pacific regions or from the emerging world, particularly with India, China, Turkey, and so forth and so on.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. It was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure too.
Okay.